Welcome to SciFi Humanity. Today, we're uncovering a gripping tale where humanity confronts the Kalvok Empire's most feared weapon. Watch as Captain Radick and his crew face a bioweapon so destructive it threatens to reshape the galaxy. Can they turn the tide and harness it to their advantage? Let's find out. They want us to drink what Captain Radick's voice boomed across the ship's command center, the disbelief in his tone matched only by the bewilderment in the eyes of his officers. They had faced countless threats since humanity joined the intergalactic stage, a stage fraught with the most unimaginable horrors that the universe could throw at them. But nothing had prepared them for this. Commander Vos cleared his throat, glancing nervously at the holographic display in front of him. It's true. Captain, the reports from the Delcor outpost confirm it. The Kalvok Empire has developed a new form of hydro-weaponry, fluid-based chemical agents with the potential to devastate entire planets. They've already deployed it in several sectors, wiping out entire civilizations in days, and now they've sent us an ultimatum. Radick frowned, his rugged face tightening with resolve, and that ultimatum is Vos hesitated, his eyes flickering over to the communication relay, where the message from the Kalvok Emperor still glowed ominously: surrender or face total annihilation by hydro-assimilation. They've already targeted Earth. The room fell silent. The Kalvok were a race feared across the galaxy, not just for their ruthless conquests, but for their terrifying innovations in bioweaponry. The idea of a weaponized liquid that could corrupt and destroy on such a massive scale had seemed like the stuff of nightmares until now. They've called it the Aquam Dominus. Vos continued, breaking the uneasy quiet, a liquid that can infiltrate any organic system, reprogram it on a molecular level. Once it enters the water supply of a planet, it spreads through every living thing, rewriting DNA and effectively turning entire populations into Kalvo thralls. We've seen it in action, sir. It's unstoppable. A murmur of dread rippled through the officers. The Kalvok weren't known for bluffing. If they said they'd developed a doomsday weapon, it was almost certain they had the means to use it. Radick's brow furrowed deeper as he leaned over the display, his eyes scanning the data feed. And they expect us to surrender just like that, to bend the knee to their empire. Vos nodded. They're counting on it, sir. They know how valuable Earth is as a strategic and resource hub. They think we'll capitulate rather than risk total destruction. Rex stood up his massive frame, casting a shadow across the room. They think wrong. We're humans, damn it. We've faced extinction before, and we've always found a way to fight back. A smattering of approval rose from the crew, their confidence rallying behind the captain's words, but Vos wasn't so easily reassured. Captain, with respect, this isn't like any threat we faced before. We're talking about a weapon that doesn't just kill, it conquers. Once that liquid hits Earth's atmosphere, it's over. We'll be slaves before we even know what's happening. Rex stared at the holographic Earth, his mind racing. Surrender was out of the question, but traditional defenses were useless against something that could spread so quickly and insidiously. They needed a solution, something no one had ever considered before. Have we analyzed the substance? He asked suddenly. What do we know about its composition? Vos blinked, caught off guard by the sudden change in direction. Yes, sir. The science team on the Vanguard managed to capture a sample from the Delcor site. They're working on it now, but initial reports suggest it's an amalgam of heavy water, micro-bioagents, and some kind of nanite structure. It's water, sir, but not any kind we've seen before, highly reactive but stable until it interacts with living tissue. Have they tested it on humans? Yet? Vos paled, sir, with all due respect. We'd never get the ethical clearance to. I didn't ask about ethics, Commander. I asked if they tested it. Vos swallowed, then nodded. Unofficially, yes, a small dose on isolated tissue samples. The results were catastrophic. The cells began mutating, almost immediately, transforming into something alien, and that was just a few drops. Radick's eyes narrowed. Just a few drops. Yes, sir, but the real danger is in its propagation. Once it's in the body, it spreads through the bloodstream like wildfire. It doesn't just kill, it transforms. Radick grunted, considering the information. What about other species? Have the Kalvok used it on themselves? Vo shook his head. Unlikely. The Kalvok are aquatic, but they have a natural resistance to most toxins. Their biology is fundamentally different from ours. Radick's eyes flickered with an idea, a crazy, impossible idea, but one that he couldn't shake. What if he started slowly? What if we didn't resist it? What if we accepted it? The command center erupted in a chorus of disbelief. Are you serious? Captain Voss sputtered. That's suicide. You're talking about letting an alien bioweapon into our systems. It would kill us all. Radick's mind was spinning now, connecting dots that no one else could see. No, not necessarily. We're missing something. The Kalvok designed this weapon to assimilate. It transforms what it touches, but into something that serves them. But what if we could change the outcome? What if we could reprogram it? Voss, face drained of color, sir. The only way to do that would be to interface directly with the substance, to let it enter a living host and adjust as it assimilates. But that would mean volunteers. Radick interrupted. We'd need volunteers, men who are willing to take the risk to let this thing inside them and see if we can fight it from within. The room fell into a stunned silence. It was madness, a plan that flew in the face of every survival instinct. But in Radick's eyes, there was a spark of something else, something that had kept humanity alive through countless wars and disasters. Defiance. There's a reason the Kalvok haven't used this on themselves. Radick continued. They can't. They're immune to their own weapon, sure, but they can't control it the way we might be able to. They don't understand us. They don't understand what we're capable of, but we do. If we can find a way to survive the initial exposure, we might be able to turn their greatest weapon against them. Vo shook his head, disbelief still etched across his face, and if we can't, Radick's grin was feral, then we give them one hell of a last stand. The silence in the room was electric, the officers exchanging uncertain glances. Radick's plan was insane, suicidal even, but in the face of certain doom, what other choice did they have? They could surrender and die or fight back in the only way humans knew how, by doing the impossible. Voss sighed, rubbing a hand over his face. I'll inform the science team to prepare for human trials, but Captain, who's going to volunteer for this? Who would be crazy enough to drink a hydro weapon? Radick's eyes gleamed with a reckless intensity. We'll start with me. The room was heavy with silence, the kind that settles when everyone in it is struggling to grasp the magnitude of a decision. Captain Radick's words had left no room for argument, and though every man in the command center knew the risks, there was a grim understanding that someone had to take the first step, but none had expected their captain to volunteer himself. Captain Voss began, his voice tinged with concern. You know, this is a one-way trip, even if, by some miracle, you survive the initial exposure. We have no idea what kind of transformation will take place. You might not even be you anymore. Radick's expression hardened, but there was a hint of a smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. That's a risk I'm willing to take, Commander. Besides, if I'm going to ask others to follow this path, I have to be the first to walk it. That's how we've always done things. If we go. To beat the Kalvok, we need to understand this weapon inside and out, and the only way to do that is from the inside. Vo shook his head, but he knew there was no changing Radick's mind once it was made up. The captain had led them through the worst the galaxy could throw at them, and his instincts had kept them alive more times than Voss cared to count. If Radick believed this was their best shot, then that was good enough for him. All right, sir, Voss finally said, squaring his shoulders. I'll notify the med bay and have them prepare a containment field. We'll need to do this under controlled conditions. No one knows what might happen. Radick nodded, a look of determination in his eyes. Do it in Voss. I need you to have a backup plan ready if this goes south. If I become a threat, you need to be ready to take me out. No hesitation. Voss' face tightened, but he gave a sharp nod. Understood, Captain. Within the hour, the med bay was transformed into a makeshift lab. Its sterile walls lined with containment fields and monitoring equipment. A team of nervous scientists and medics hovered around their faces, a mix of fear and fascination in the center of the room. A reinforced glass chamber stood ready, a vial of the deadly Aquam Dominus suspended in its core. Radick entered the med bay, his heavy boots echoing against the metal floor. He had donned a standard-issue combat suit, its material designed to withstand hostile environments, But even the best human technology couldn't protect him from what was about to happen. Captain, we've set up a neural link to monitor your brain activity. Doug Heller, the head scientist, explained as he approached, if anything starts to go wrong, we'll be able to shut it down immediately. But just once it's inside you, we can't guarantee we'll be able to stop it. Radick met Keller's gaze, his expression unyielding. Just make sure you're recording everything we need to learn as much as we can. Keller swallowed, nodding as he handed Radick a small vial of the Aquam Dominus. The liquid inside was a deep, iridescent blue swirling with a life of its own. It was as if the substance was aware, almost sentient in its malevolence. Taking a deep breath, Radick unscrewed the vial and held it up, staring at the liquid that could very well be his death sentence. The room fell silent as everyone watched, holding their breath. Here's to humanity. Radick muttered under his breath before downing the contents in one swift motion. The effect was immediate. The moment the liquid hit his throat, Radick felt a searing pain that spread through his chest like wildfire. It was as if his insides were being torn apart and reassembled all at once. He stumbled back, gasping as his vision blurred and his body convulsed. The monitors around him erupted in a cacophony of alarms, the neural link spiking with chaotic activity. Captain, can you hear me? Keller's voice was distant, barely audible over the roaring in Radick's ears. His body was on fire, every nerve ending, screaming in agony as the Aquam Dominus began its insidious work. But Radick wasn't just a soldier, he was a survivor. Clenching his teeth, he forced his mind to focus, to fight back against the overwhelming urge to let go. He could feel the substance spreading through his veins, seeking to corrupt and control, but he wasn't about to let it win. In the medbay, the tension was thick enough to choke on. Vo stood by his hand. Hovering over the emergency shutdown switch, he watched as Radick's body twisted and writhed, muscles contorting under the strain of the transformation. But there was something else happening, something unexpected. Wait, look at his vitals. One of the medics whispered, her eyes wide with disbelief. They're stabilizing. Keller leaned in closer, his brow furrowing as he studied the monitors. Radick's neural activity, which had been spiking wildly, was beginning to level out. The chaotic signals were still there, but now they seemed to. Control directed Radick's. Breathing slowed, the convulsions subsiding. As his body began to calm, he could feel the Aquam Dominus within him, a foreign presence that had sought to dominate, but had instead been met with resistance. It was adapting, yes, but so was he. Slowly, painfully, Radick forced himself to stand. His vision cleared, and he realized that he was still himself. No alien mind had taken over. No monstrous transformation had occurred. There was something different, something he couldn't quite place, a sense of power, of clarity that he had never felt before. Captain, are you all right? Keller asked, his voice shaking with a mix of fear and awe. Radick nodded, his movements slow and deliberate. I'm fine. Better than fine. It's like I can feel it inside me, but it's not controlling me. I'm controlling it. The room was silent, the implications of Radick's words sinking in. If what he was saying was true, then humanity had just found a way to turn the Kalvok's deadliest weapon into their greatest asset. We need to run more tests, Keller said quickly, his mind already racing with possibilities. If you can control it, we might be able to replicate this, create a new line of defense, maybe even a counter-offensive. Radick smiled a fierce predatory grin, and then we take the fight to them. Vo stepped forward, his eyes locked on Radick's. Captain. If this works, if we can harness this power, we could turn the tide of the war. Radick's grin widened. Not just the Warvos, we could change everything. Radick stood in the middle of the medbay, still reeling from the transformation. The Aquam Dominus, which should have destroyed him, had instead become part of him. He could feel its power coursing through his veins, a strange symbiosis between man and weapon, and though the experience had been harrowing, Radick knew they had stumbled upon something far more valuable than just a new form of defense. This was a weapon that could turn the tide of the entire war. Keller and his team wasted no time in running a battery of tests, measuring everything from Radick's cellular structure to his cognitive function. What they found was astonishing. The Aquam Dominus had not only failed to take over Radick's body, but it had also enhanced it. His cells were regenerating faster, his muscles were stronger, and his neural responses were sharper. It was as if he had been upgraded, turned into something more than human. Captain Keller said, his voice barely able to contain his excitement. This is beyond anything we could have imagined. The Aquam Dominus isn't just a weapon. It's a catalyst. It's interacting with your biology in ways that make you faster, stronger. It's like it's unlocked a new level of human potential. Radick flexed his fingers, feeling the surge of energy that hummed beneath his skin. But the real question is, can it be replicated? Can we do this with other soldiers? Keller nodded, his eyes gleaming. I believe so. We'd need to refine the process, make sure it's safe. But if we can harness this, we could create an entire battalion of enhanced soldiers. The Kalvok would never see it coming. The implications were staggering. For the first time since the war began, humanity had a weapon that could not only match the Kalvok, but potentially surpass them. Radick's mind raced with possibilities. If they could perfect this process, they could turn the Kalvok's greatest strength into their Achilles heel. Then we need to act fast. Radick said, his voice filled with newfound resolve. The Kalvok won't wait forever. They'll be expecting us to surrender any day now. We need to be ready to hit back hard. Voss stepped forward, his face a mixture of awe and determination. Captain, what's the plan? Radick turned to face his men, his eyes burning with purpose. We're going to build a new team, one that's ready to take the fight to the Kalvok on their own turn. Comes Keller. I want you to start the process with a select group of volunteers. We need to get them ready for deployment as soon as possible. Keller nodded. I'll get started immediately. We'll need to screen the volunteers carefully, but if we can replicate what happened to you, Captain, we'll have a force the Kalvok can't hope to stand against. Radick clenched his fists, the power of the Aquam Dominus surging within him. And then we take the fight to their homeworld. We show them that humanity isn't just going to roll over and die. We'll give them a war they'll never forget. Days turned into weeks as Keller and his team worked around the clock, perfecting the process that had transformed Radick. They screened dozens of volunteers, each one selected for their resilience, strength, and loyalty. The transformation was risky, and not all the candidates made it through unscathed, but those who did emerge stronger, faster, and more lethal than ever before. Rudok's elite team, dubbed the Hydro Commandos, was unlike any force humanity had ever fielded. Each soldier had undergone the same transformation as Radick, their bodies infused with the power of the Aquam Dominus. They trained relentlessly, pushing their enhanced abilities to the limit, preparing for the mission that would determine the fate of humanity. The day finally came when they were ready. Radick stood before his men, each one a testament to human ingenuity and determination. The time had come to strike back, to take the war to the Kalvok and end it once and for all. Today, we make history. Radick said, his voice carrying the weight of the moment. We've trained, we've prepared, and now we're ready to take the fight to the enemy. The Kalvok think they can intimidate us, that they can force us to surrender, but they have no idea what's coming. His words were met with a chorus of cheers. The Hydro Commandos, eager to unleash their newfound power, they boarded their strike ship, the Invictus, and set course for the Kalvok homeworld. This mission was a bold one, but Radick knew it was the only way to end the war on their terms. As the Invictus approached the Kalvok's heavily fortified planet, the crew could see the sprawling cities beneath their architecture, a blend of organic and mechanical, shimmering with an eerie aquatic glow. The Kalvok had never been challenged on their home turf, but that was about to change. Prepare for descent. Radick ordered, his voice calm and steady. We hit them fast and hard. Our objective is to take out their central command. Without it, their forces will fall into disarray. The Invictus punched through the planet's atmosphere, its shields holding steady against the Kalvok's automated defenses. The Hydro Commandos suited up their enhanced bodies, ready for the onslaught that awaited them. As the ship touched down on the outskirts of the Kalvok capital, the air was thick with tension. Radick led the charge, his men fanning out behind him in perfect formation. The Kalvok forces met them with ferocity, their aquatic weapons slicing through the air with deadly precision. But the Hydro Commandos were more than a match. Their enhanced reflexes and strength allowed them to dodge and counterattack with lethal efficiency. The battle raged through the city, a brutal clash of titans. The Kalvok had never faced an enemy like this, and their confusion was evident as the Hydra commandos cut through their ranks. Radick fought with a single-minded purpose, his eyes fixed on the massive structure at the center of the city, the Kalvok Command Center. Pushed forward, he shouted, cutting down a Kalvok warrior with a swift, precise strike. "We take that building and this war is over." The Hydra commandos surged ahead, their momentum unstoppable. Radick reached the command center, first blasting through its reinforced doors with a well-placed explosive charge inside. The Kalvok leadership awaited, their faces twisted in shock and fear. "Your reign ends here," Rad declared, his voice cold and unyielding. He raised his weapon and fired, ending the Kalvok Emperor life in a single, full decisive shot. The room fell silent, the battle outside suddenly quieting as the news spread. The Kalvok forces, now leaderless, began to falter, their once coordinated attacks descending into chaos. The Hydra commandos pressed their advantage quickly, securing the city and with it the Kalvok Empire. Radick stood at the heart of the command center, his body still humming with the power of the Aquam Dominus. The war was over. Humanity had not only survived, but it emerged victorious, stronger than ever before. As he surveyed the battlefield, Radick couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. They had faced the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known and turned it into their greatest weapon. Humanity had not just survived, they had thrived, adapting and overcoming as they always had with the Kalvok defeated. The galaxy would be forever changed, and it was humanity who had changed it. Thanks for watching SciFi Humanity. If you were captivated by humanity's bold stand against the Kalvok Empire's most dreaded weapon, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more thrilling sci-fi sagas. What do you think about Captain Radick's audacious plan? Could humanity truly turn a weapon of annihilation into their salvation? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and stay tuned for more interstellar adventures that push the boundaries of imagination. Until next time, keep your eyes on the stars.